directly to their grandparents. And so they're raised by their grandparents. They never have any contact with their own parents. And that somehow this is a very healthy way to raise children, and that there's a strange compatibility between children and their grandparents that doesn't quite work with parents. And I don't know if you have to have contact with your own grandparents, but my grandmother raised me, and we had this amazing bond, and I feel like it's because there's this generational gap that we're sort of compatible, because my mother, my mother's generation, my mother and I were always in conflict, but then my grandmother and I, we were always in this like really close relationship. And so I think it's a great idea that we should all be separated from birth from our parents and raised by our grandparents, and I think everything would work out fine. Just a theory, but yeah. So as you know from looking into the book, I'm really interested in these generational questions, and so that's why I kind of wanted to have a sense of, what you're doing, the moment that you live in. We're just being called the postmodern moment. Postmodern is generally it's technically an architectural term. It was the moment in architecture when architectural styles started becoming kind of mashups. So you would see a building that was composed of, say, like a Gothic tower matched together with like a very modernist, sleek building. So it started with this kind of combination of everything possible, because I think people had the idea that, oh, we've done everything, now the only thing we have to do is just reconfigure what we already have. And so that kind of yielded us into the postmodern moment, and now we have the internet and that combination of this sort of mashup moment. We don't really know what to do with all this stuff. There's too much information to know. So how do we manage this kind of strange state of affairs? And so that's sort of your generation. You were born into the internet, which I wasn't. I mean, I didn't have internet until I was like 22. So I think it changes your whole sense of being in the world. And I'd love to hear some, I don't know, what it's like to be your age now, what it's like politically to sort of be witnessing things like the election or, all of these other kind of political movements that we witness now. I saw from some of the questions that you sent that this is very sort of central. So, yeah, I mean, we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. I will sort of take the earbuds in and out so I can hear you better and not hear myself, which is, I find my own voice really annoying. But whatever questions you have or whatever you want to talk about, I'm happy to talk about.
I know yesterday we had a discussion built around the distraction chapter, the distraction essay in your book. So you guys had a lot of really good stuff to say yesterday. So if there's anything you guys want to bring back from yesterday of what we talked about with distraction, as far as how she's telling you about your experiences growing up so far, maybe that would be a good place to start off. I know we had some pretty good disagreements at the end, so maybe we can start there. So by all means, just ask her a question, just say it loudly enough so she can hear you guys. So someone start us off. Who's going to start us off? Pablo, start us off. Talk loudly. Talk loudly.
What are your thoughts on cell phones and, like, in our age? Like, how do they affect us?
That's a great question, and I have a lot to say about that.
We know.
So I had a cell phone for the longest time, and I got a smartphone, I don't know, a couple years ago now. And I hate it. I hate my phone, and I try to leave it in the bottom of my bag whenever I can. It has weird crumbs on it all the time, like strange fuzz, because it just sort of lives in the bottom of my bag. Why did I do that? Because I noticed that when I didn't have it in my bag and it was in my hand and I was constantly sort of developing an addiction for this screen and for this like completely superfluous information, I was looking at it all the time, and I started to notice I was missing things going on in real life. There was a chapter I think I wrote in the essay collection about how I was sitting on a train in New York City, and I was like, sitting there. I didn't have my phone out, but everyone else had their phone out. And this beautiful man gets on the train, and nobody saw him. Everybody missed him. because everybody was looking at their phone, and I thought, what a sad experience that there's like this beautiful human walking by and nobody saw him. The same thing with something like, I'm a nature person, and whenever I can, I spend time outside, away from people. When you have the phone, I mean, you're drawn away from the actual kind of, bodily and embodied phenomenological experience of being in the world. And so I find it a real tragedy to be sucked into these kind of, the remoteness. Like nothing on the screen is ever as interesting as what's right in front of you, in my opinion. And I think there's a lot that's lost by allowing oneself to be sucked away into kind of this alternate universe that is about surfaces and about appearances. I'm sure you all know about the non-correspondence between someone's actual